Hello, in this video I'm going to explain the basics of post stitches in crochet. This is part of a series of tutorials in my newsletter about where I can insert my hook into a crochet stitch to obtain different effects. To receive all the tutorials directly in your inbox, please feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. The link is in the description below. And you can, of course, also subscribe to my channel and click the bell to be notified whenever I put up a new video. So, this is about where to insert your hook, actually. So, as we have seen in previous tutorials, the default space to insert your hook is in the top of the stitch under both loops. However, post stitches are very different because you are going to work around this part of the stitch, which is called the body of the stitch or the post. So we are going to do this in two ways. What happens is that you insert your hook before the stitch, you pass, in this case, behind it, and you exit after the stitch. So this can be done in this way, from the front, and then it's a front post stitch. Or you can do it from the back, and then it's easier to tilt the work towards you. You go in before the stitch, you go around the post, and you go out after the stitch. And this, done from the back, is a back post. And from the front, you can only see this. So let's see how it works. So now let's see how this works in practice. I'm going to work a post stitch in this next stitch. As this means I'm going to work around the body of the stitch, as seen before. What this also means is that the base of my new stitch is not going to sit here, but further down in the work, somewhere around here. So if I want to keep a straight line of my row here in this double crochet swatch, I will need to work a treble around my post so that I don't get a dip here or some tension on my crocheted fabric. So now I'm going to work a front post treble. So I start, as for any treble, with 2 yarn overs. And now this is the stitch I'm going to work around. So I go in from back to front before the stitch, I pass behind it, and I go out from back to front after the stitch. I pull up a loop. So I have 4 loops on my hook as for any treble, and I finish my treble as usual. So now we can already start to see how this stitch sits in front of the fabric. So I work a couple of normal double crochets and then another treble, a front post treble around this stitch. So 2 yarn overs to prepare my stitch. I go in before the stitch from front to back. I pass behind the stitch and I go out from back to front after the stitch. I pull up a loop and I finish my front post treble. So here I am at the end of my row. I have worked a total of 4 post stitches, front post trebles here. They can be a bit hard to see in the video, but they are actually quite textured and standing out from the background fabric. They lie over the background in a way. As you can see, I have marked these post stitches, and I suggest, of course, that you do this as you go and you do not wait until the end of the row. So while these stitches will be rather easy to identify as you work them on the right side of the work here. When we turn our work around, we can see that it doesn't show up in the same way at all. So it can be a bit tricky to identify these stitches on your return row if you haven't marked them before. So that's why I suggest that you do that. As you can see, post stitches are not reversible. Here we have worked front post stitches on this side, but to keep this stitch pattern going, we will need to work back post stitches on this side. So here we are, I have reached the post stitch. I'm going to take out this stitch marker for now. And now I'm going to work a back post treble around this next stitch. So I start, as for any treble, with 2 yarn overs. And now I'm going to tilt the work towards me a little bit, and I'm going in before the stitch. I pass in front of the body of the stitch, and I'm going out behind the stitch. And I pull up a loop, and I finish working my back post treble. And I insert my lockable stitch marker. I'm going to show that again. So take care not to work into the top of the stitch you just worked around, because you will increase the number of stitches on your row. And here is the next stitch around which we are going to work a back post treble. So I remove the marker. I yarn over twice, just because this is a treble and not something else. I go behind, in front of the post of the stitch, and out again towards the back of the work. And here I find it easier to fold the work over like this. So I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop and finish my treble just like any treble. So I have made another back post treble, and I insert my stitch marker again in the stitch just made. So now I have finished this row. It's not very spectacular. You can perhaps guess that the back post stitches are here. You see a small ridge, which is the top of the stitch in the row below. In this kind of stitch pattern, where the post stitches are, like, let's say, scattered over the row, the back post stitches are not very impressive, but you can of course align more of them and have more of a horizontal ridge. But if I turn around my work now, we can see that our back post trebles actually created something very similar to the front post treble on the right side of the work. So we have added another layer, another row of these beautiful textured stitches. And you can of course continue as long as you want, building on these vertical ridges with front post stitches on the right side and back post stitches on the wrong side. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, because this will help other people who are interested in crochet tutorials to find it. As I said previously, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to be notified whenever I put up a new video. You can also find the link to my newsletter in the description below, And in this newsletter, I send out a monthly crochet tutorial, except right now because it's summer, so it's one tutorial for July and August together. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.